Stick around, we're going to test out RIDGID's brand new 18-volt brushless ratchets. Here we have RIDGID's brand new 18-volt brushless ratchets. They're 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch models. Model number on these is the R866010, 011, and 012. Now let's take a closer look at each one of these features. We'll put it on our test rig, see how strong they actually are. Then we'll come back, talk about pricing and warranty. Here we have the RIDGID 18-volt brushless ratchets. Now we have the 1/4 inch, the 3/8 inch, and the 1/2 inch ratchets. You'll notice right away the 1/4 inch head quite a bit smaller than the 3/8 and the 1/2 inch. I believe the 3/8 and 1/2 inch are identical size other than the anvil itself. We will measure those here in one moment, as well as we'll get a length on all these and a weight on them as well. Now, model number on these, the 1/4 inch is the R866010. The 3/8 inch is the R866011. And you guessed it, the 1/2 inch is the R866012. So we get the 10, the 11, and the 12. All of these obviously on the RIDGID 18-volt platform, and they all come as a bare tool, so they don't come kitted with the battery. But what we have on here, we have a 2 amp hour on the 1/4 inch, a 4 amp hour on the 3/8, and a 6 amp hour on the 1/2 inch. I think the 2 amp hour really goes the best on this. We'll get some better shots here alone, but it just gives it a lot lower profile. Since we are using an 18-volt battery, typically that really kind of hinders a tool like this, especially when we're in a kind of a full-length platform where it's sticking off the back. But they've done a good job with that. We're kind of, mitigating that 18-volt large battery on the end, especially with a lower profile 2 amp hour. I just think that goes the best. Now we'll check on power and see if that limits that also here in a few moments when we test these. Now let's look at specs on these. Now the specs on these, the RPM are actually different on each one of these, as well as the torque. Now torque output on the 1/4 inch is 45 foot-pounds, supposedly. Again, we'll test that here in a moment. We never see the true torque settings as what marketing claims on these cordless ratchets. On these, we always see them quite a bit different, so we will see here on the RIDGID. So 45 foot-pounds and 325 RPM on the RIDGID 1/4 inch. On the RIDGID 3/8 inch, it's supposed to be 250 RPM and 55 foot-pounds. So we're jumping from 45 foot-pounds to 55 foot-pounds, but we're dropping in RPM from 325 to 250. And then on the 1/2 inch, we get 175 RPM, so another drop in RPM, but up to a 60 foot-pounds of torque on the 1/2 inch. Now they all include a variable speed trigger, so we can make this thing crawl if we want to, or we can speed it all the way up. And in this case, we're getting 325 RPM out of this little 1/4 inch. We also get an LED light right there that will shine somewhere near the fastener as we're working on it, depending on how much of an extension we have on it. But anyway, it does give us a little bit of light on the situation. Here on the top side of the ratchet on each one of these, they're identical. We have a lockout, so a trigger lockout. So when you throw this in the drawer or throw it in your toolbox, you're not accidentally going to set that trigger on something and activate the motor and wear out the battery or kill the battery. So trigger lockout there, easily flip that and turn that off. So very easy to access that with your thumb. Also the button here, it looks like you can get a couple of fingers on there. So whether you're holding this kind of up close or even on the really far on the back side, should be able to still easily grab that button and activate the ratchet. Now let's first thing go ahead and get a weight on each one of these so we can tell the differences here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the battery off. So we're looking at 1 pound, 15.5 ounces. So right at 2 pounds. Let's go to the 3/8. No battery on the 3/8. 2 pounds, 7 ounces. That's a pretty big jump. That's a 7.5 ounce jump. So obviously the larger head, larger anvil is definitely playing a role in that. So 2 pounds, 7 ounces. And then without the battery on the 1/2 inch, 2 pounds 7.5 ounces. So it looks like, as I mentioned earlier, probably the only difference between these two is the actual anvil of the 3/8 anvil here and the 1/2 inch there, which has given us a 1/2 ounce difference. So 2 pounds 7 ounces here, 2 pounds 7.5 ounces here, and 1 pound 15.5 ounces here. Now, just to give you an idea, with a battery, of course, that's going to depend on which battery you're running. With a 2 amp hour battery on the 1/4 inch, you're jumping up to 3 pounds 1 ounce. So you're adding a pound, ounce and a half, 1 pound, 1.5 ounces. Yeah, so we're adding right at a pound with that 2 amp hour battery on there. While these batteries are off, we can also get a length on these. So I believe the 1/2 inch and 3/8, yeah, they're a little bit longer. So we can see here, right at 15 5/8 of an inch on the 1/4 inch, and about 16 1/4 on the 1/2 inch and 3/8 inch. So 16 1/4 and 15 5/8. So about a 1/2 inch longer on the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 models. Now, the nice thing about the 1/4 inch is obviously the diameter of the head, or the span across the head, which is 1.17 inches. That's on the small one, and on the 3/8, you're looking at right at 1.5 inches. Yes, so right at 1.5 inches. So quite a bit smaller on the 1/4 inch, and the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 are identical at 1.5 inches. So you get 1.5 inches across the head on the 3/8 and the 1/2 inch, and you can see the difference there on that 1/4 inch. But of course, you're losing torque on that as well. So 1.17 on the 1/4 inch and 1.5 on the 3/8 and the 1/2 inch. Now, as far as thickness of the head, 0.875 there, and right at 1 inch. So 0.875 and 1 inch on the thickness of the head. And then obviously the anvils are going to be 1/4 inch, 3/8 and 1/2 inch. I mentioned earlier that we have the 6 amp hour, the 4 amp hour, and the 2 amp hour battery. And what pairs really well with this is that 2 amp hour, because you get that's a lot slimmer factor here through the body of the tool with that 2 amp hour on it. Still get a pretty wide base there, but it keeps that nice and low profile with that 2 amp hour versus, sticking a 4 amp hour on here and having it stick up that much higher. So I like running that 2 amp hour on here, but we will see how it translates as far as power. And of course, this 6 amp hour is just really kind of overkill if you ask me, because it just really, even though it doesn't stick up that much higher than the 4 amp hour, about the same height, a little bit taller, but not much. Looks like maybe a 1/4 inch difference in those two. Let's go put these on our test rig and see how they perform. All right, here we are on the test rig. We are going to make this really simple. We're going to take our electronic torque wrench. We're going to start torquing these. I think we'll start at 10 foot-pounds. We'll go 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, on all the way up, jumping 5 foot-pounds for each of these. And then we'll test each one of the ratchets. We will start with the 1/4 inch. Now, instead of testing every one of the ratchets on every single bolt, wherever the 1/4 inch ends, we'll assume that the 3/8 can do what it's already done. And so we'll start on the next one with the 3/8. Now, obviously, if it can't remove that one, then we'll drop down to the one below that. But it'll keep us from having to do 10 and 15 and 20 foot-pounds for the larger ratchets. We will have to assume they can do that, especially if we're starting from there and moving up. So you get it. That makes sense. So anyway, that's what we're going to start with. Let's go ahead and get these torqued. Okay, we've got them all torqued. We've got 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and 55 foot-pounds. we're going to start with the 1/4 inch ratchet. Now, here's the thing with the 1/4 inch. With the 1/4 inch, we have to use an adapter because we can't get a 1/4 inch socket that's a 24 millimeter. Now, we could do different tests, and I could start down here with the smaller ones if we need to, but this should not affect it since it's not an impact tool. It may affect it a small margin, but torque is not everything on these tools. We'll explain that here in a moment. But anyway, let's make sure, okay, so that's tighten. Let's go to loosen. We'll turn the head here, which, by the way, you see the low profile on that directional switch. I like that because it doesn't get in the way. It doesn't stick up and protrude above the head, so if something hits it or touches it while it's rotating, it won't shift directions on us. So we've got it in reverse, and we've got 10 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to try to just leave this here against the bottom of the test rig and just pull the trigger and let it do its own work. 10 foot-pounds. No problem at all. Okay, 15 foot-pounds. That's no problem either. Now 20 foot-pounds. Okay, 25 foot-pounds. Looks like it hung up just a smidge of a second, just a little bit right there at 25. So here we go at 30 foot-pounds. Still breaking free 30. Let me turn the tool around here. So now we're at 35 foot-pounds. No problem there. 40 foot-pounds. We got 40. Okay, here's the max at 45 foot-pounds. Trying hard not to break this free with my hand at all, just to let the tool do it. 45 foot-pounds. Okay, so right at the max. And you see, it's not wanting to break that free. Now I'm going to try something here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of slop, a little bit of a head start. I'm not really tweaking that. I'm just going to find it where you've got a little bit of slop in the gear and put the slop on the side where the motor can turn just a touch before it engages. Here we go. Yeah, it's pretty good. So 45 foot-pounds. That's what it was rated for. I'm impressed with that. I really am. Usually we're under that number the way we test these. So now we're at 50 foot-pounds. Same thing. I'm going to give it a little bit of a, I'm not turning it. I'm just giving it a little bit of slop here. Okay, still nothing there. Now I'm going to give it kind of the running start like people always want me to do, which I think is a bad idea, but I'm still going to do it. So yeah, it breaks that free. It really doesn't interest me doing it that way. I think that's ruining fasteners, but we'll just try it here at 55 as well. Yeah, and it breaks that free as well. So you can get a running start and back those off, but really 45 foot-pounds I would give for the max of this tool, which is pretty good, because that's what it's rated for. So the 1/4 inch, we're going to go with 45 foot-pounds. Okay, so here's what I've done. I've backed up and I'm started here at 50 foot-pounds. So we're doing 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. Now I'm also going to go back to my 1/4 inch. I'm going to install a 4 amp hour battery and just see if we get any more power out of the 1/4 inch by going to a 4 amp hour. So now we're at 50 foot-pounds, which we already broke this free, at least using the kind of NASCAR method, if you will. So I'm going to have this against the bottom now. Oh, anvil jumped off. Here we go. Okay, 50 foot-pounds. Oh, that broke that free. 55 foot-pounds. Oh wow, so looks like we picked up a little bit of power going to the 4 amp hour battery. 60 foot-pounds? Nope. Okay. So looks like we picked up a little going to a 4 amp hour battery. Since we're there, let's go on to the 6 amp hour. So no, didn't get any more out of that. But still, we got 55 foot-pounds out of the 1/4 inch. So 10 foot-pounds more than what they claimed by going to a 4 amp hour battery. And just so you know, if we go to the cheating method, even back with the 2 amp hour battery, looks like kind of that's the, we broke that one free too. Again, I don't like that test. We're calling this 55 foot-pounds with a 4 amp hour battery and 45 foot-pounds with a 2 amp hour battery. Okay, now we're going to the 3/8 version, which is supposed to have 55 foot-pounds. We've got a fully charged 2 amp hour battery. We're going to start with that 2 amp hour battery because we like it the best with that slim profile. Let's make sure we're in reverse. Yep, we're in reversed. And there we go. We're going to start at 50 foot-pounds. So we retorque these to 50, 55, 60, and so forth. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. So even at 50 foot-pounds, so no, it looks like on the third one it started try to go. Yeah, it's moving. Yeah. So a couple of pulls, it actually moved it on the second pull just a bit. So we went ahead and pulled it again. So here we are at 55 foot-pounds. Yeah, looks like it's budging it. So again, like I did with the other one, let me get to where it just has a little bit of slop in it. And that really seems to help it out. Okay, again on this one. So now we're at 50, 55, 60. So that was what it was rated for. Yeah, it looks like it buzzed. It'll probably break it free this time. Nope. Yeah, so letting it get just a little bit of a run, even if you give it a little bit of slop in the handle, seems to really allow it to free up a little bit and get it past that electric cutout that's in the tool. So again, we're at 50, 55, 60. Now we're at 65 foot-pounds. Yeah, so breaking it free with giving it a little bit of slop beforehand, but we're going to call that at 60 foot-pounds with the 3/8. So this was 65 foot-pounds, what we just broke free by kind of cheating a little bit. We're going to go to the 4 amp hour battery and let's just see if we can break free. What's this, 70 now? Yeah, so a couple of pulls it broke that free. 75. Something tells me that was not torqued properly. Let's get that back on there. So this one's going back to, oh, you know what? We never torqued to 75. All we torqued was to 70, so that's why. So that's 74.8. I would call that close enough. So 75 foot-pounds. Yeah, no. Giving it a little bit of slop beforehand and a few trigger pulls, we're getting 75. We're going to call that at 70, even with the 4 amp hour battery. Now let's move on to the big 1/2 inch. Okay, we've gone back to 50 foot-pounds starting here, going all the way up to 75 foot-pounds. So let's take our 1/2 inch. So this is the big dog, supposed to be 60 foot-pounds, and let's start at 50. We're going to lay it here on the table and pull the trigger. So 50 foot-pounds, no problem at all. Ooh, 55. Now, as we've done the others, let's give it a little bit of yeah, I got that one. So this is 65. So it looks like we got 65 with giving it just a little bit of play. Here's 70. Maybe second pull. Nope. Maybe third pull. So looks like it's getting 70. So 50, 55, 60, 65. Oh wow. So 65 it's getting with a few pulls. So now let's try 70. Nope. So yeah, got 70 with a little bit of slop on a couple of different pulls. Doubt it's going to get this one. 75 foot-pounds. Yeah, it gets 75. So now we've got 80 foot-pounds here. So not even with a little bit of a slop in there. Wish I had a better term for that. Sorry, just being honest with you. Now let's go to a 4 amp hour battery. So not even with the 4 amp hour. Now running start. Yeah, obviously it's going to get that. We're not going to give it 80. So we'll give it 75 foot-pounds with giving it a little bit of slop. Really don't see that the 4 amp hour is helping any. It did boost up on the 1/4 inch, but I think that's because of we're getting a lot of speed out of the 1/4 inch because of probably a different gear ratio, and so that's why that additional probably amp draw from the 4 amp hour battery without a voltage drop is aiding in that more so than on the higher torque models, which obviously they're doing through gears, because I think we've got the same setup in these ratchets other than the gear ratio and the head themselves. Now, just to give you an idea of the speed difference between the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch, you see we've got all these nuts flush here, and so we'll run them in, pull the trigger at the same time. So you see the 1/4 inch is finishing a bit quicker than the 1/2 inch. Here we go again. So it looks like about a second quicker just running that one nut in by having a higher speed on the 1/4 inch. But of course we're getting more torque out of the 1/2 inch. Now one more test, and that is just testing the strength of the ratchet itself. I'm going to set this at 100 foot-pounds. Now these are all torqued, these three are torqued at 100 foot-pounds. And we're just going to test the strength of the ratchet being able to hold up in a physical scenario of having to remove or tighten something that's beyond the torque limits of the ratchet itself. Looks like we're probably about to break this adapter right here. Nope, looks like we broke the anvil on the ratchet itself at trying to break free 100 foot-pounds. So now we're going to go to the 3/8. And so the 3/8 manually 100 foot-pounds, no problem at all. And the 1/2 inch, yeah, no problem whatsoever. So here's the deal. I probably should have, at a 1/4 inch, probably done like 50 or 60 foot-pounds, because let's face it, you're not grabbing a 1/4 inch ratchet to break free 100 foot-pounds. So I'm going to call that our mistake on that, because really and truly, I don't know when you'd grab a 1/4 inch ratchet, and if somebody told me that they grabbed it to break free 100 foot-pounds, I would tell them they were silly. So that was purely my fault there for that. I would not expect that anvil to hold up to that, but there's your recommendation. Don't try to break free 100 foot-pounds with your 1/4-inch drive ratchet. I'm just impressed with I'm getting no flex here in the body. So I was, wanting to test that, seeing if there was any flex in the plastic or anything, because let's face it, you're gonna grab this to use it and either finish tightening or break something free, but it did very well on that, except for my blunder there of trying to break free 100 foot-pounds with a 1/4-inch drive anvil. Okay, I do really feel bad because this was my blunder on trying to take this to 100 foot-pounds. I should have tested it, say 60 foot-pounds, I think would have been a fair number. Still, you shouldn't grab a 1/4-inch ratchet, whether it's a cordless ratchet or a regular ratchet, to break free even 60 foot-pounds, I don't think. Let me know what you think, but it shouldn't have held up to 100 foot-pounds. That was my stupidity. So forgive me for that. That's not RIDGID's fault at all at 100 foot-pounds on that 1/4-inch anvil. The rest of these held up absolutely fine, breaking those free without any flex in the handle whatsoever. So here's my point on that. When I'm testing that physical strength on that, I'm not trying to test what's the max we can put on this, but I'm just looking at it to say, you're doing a brake job, you're putting on some calipers, you're taking off some calipers. It doesn't have the strength to actually break it free because it's not an impact wrench. But you are going to take and just kind of bear down on it, break that free, then pull the trigger and back it the rest of the way off. Same way with putting it back on, you're going to tighten it up as far as it'll go, and then you're going to put a little more ugga-dugga with that physical power of yours without going and getting a different tool to do that. I know that's going to happen, so that's why I test that. At the same time, I'm not trying to see, can we take it to 200 foot-pounds? Can we take it to 250? I don't think you're going to grab say a 12-inch ratchet to do that anyway, so I'm not going to test it at that. So again, 1/4-inch, my fault on that. The 3/8 and a 1/2-inch, no problem at all with virtually zero flex in the ratchet when breaking that free. And even with kind of a midpoint handle here, with that battery hanging off the back end, you're really grabbing this in the middle, which two things. Number one, it gives it a really, centered balance, if you will. So you get a very equal tool as far as weight goes, especially with the 2 amp hour. It's a very balanced tool. You can see it'll basically balance there on my thumb, right there in about the dead center where you're going to grab that ratchet. So a very balanced ratchet with that battery hanging off the back. At the same time, it's limiting you from kind of grabbing back here, so you're not getting that full leverage point, which then we go back to saying, is this the tool where you're breaking things free? Or is it the tool where you're nut running? And that's what I've always said about a cordless ratchet. It's not an impact wrench. It's not meant to, sit and hammer on a bolt or a nut to break it free. It's meant for nut running. It's meant for running that nut on, running that nut off. And if you're needing more ugga-duggas on that, break out the impact wrench or break out a pry bar to break it free, tighten it up, grab your torque wrench, whatever. But this is meant to run the nuts on and off. With that said, the speed of the 1/4-inch is very nice because you're getting a lot more speed, but obviously you're limiting the torque because you've geared it differently to get that increased RPM. So we limited it to right at 45 foot-pounds, which was still pretty impressive from the 1/4-inch drive. And then I believe we got 75 foot-pounds out of the 1/2-inch, and right in the middle with the 3/8 drive, we got 60 foot-pounds with the 2 amp hour battery, and I believe 65 foot-pounds, or maybe even 70 foot-pounds with the 4 amp hour, giving it a little bit of space. Yes, it was 70 foot-pounds with giving it a little bit of a slop there and running the 4 amp hour battery. We did not eke out any more with the 4 amp hour on the 1/2-inch model. Hey, pretty impressive results out of these guys. Pricing on these is $179, $179, and $199. You get a 90-day warranty, but you can upgrade that to the typical RIDGID lifetime service agreement. All you have to do is register the tool within 90 days of purchase. That's a must. You have to do that. So once you buy it from the Home Depot or homedepot.com, then you register within 90 days of your purchase, have your receipt, and once you register it, you'll have that lifetime service agreement that will cover the tool for the lifetime that you have it. Check it out from the Home Depot. They should be available now. Again, pricing on that is $179 for the 1/4-inch, $179 for the 3/8, and $199 for the 1/2-inch. That is a bare tool. I don't believe they're available in a kit yet. Home Depot might kind of combine these so you can buy it as a kit, but not that we've seen yet. So check those out. We'll have links in the description. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, give us a thumbs down, but let us know in the comments why. Have a great day and keep smiling.